Welcome to Function Focus Lesson 21 with Ms. Barrett. This week we'll be discussing the sum of finite arithmetic and geometric sequences. And what that really means, don't get intimidated. What that really means is, I want you to tell me what, if I add up the first, for example, 10 terms of a sequence, how much does that equal? So if you know what the first 10 terms of a sequence are, all I want you to do is add them up and tell me what they are, what the answer is. Now, why we use a formula for that is because if I ask you to add up the first 100,000 terms of a sequence, I don't think you want to sit there and just add up 100,000 terms. So formulas help us do complex mathematics processes very quickly, okay, and very easily. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to focus on the sum of finite arithmetic sequences, okay? And then next class we will talk about the sum of finite geometric sequences. So in our review, I want you to classify each of these A, B, C, and D as arithmetic, geometric, or neither. And I went ahead and did it for you because we went over this thoroughly last week. So this first sequence, I have 5, 15, 45, and 135. So I gave you the first 4 in the sequence. And remember, in order to find out if it's arithmetic or geometric, you must do a test. You must do the arithmetic test and the geometric test. Okay, now the arithmetic test says you take the second term and you subtract the first term. So 15 minus 5 was 10. Then you take the third term and subtract the second term. 45 minus 15 is 25. Because these two numbers are not the same in the test, then we know that this sequence is not arithmetic. Now let's do the geometric test. You do the second term divided by the first term. So 15 minus 5 is 3. And then you do the third term divided by the second term, which was 45 divided by 15, which is also 3. Now, after I've done my geometric test, I notice that my answers are the same. Therefore, this sequence is geometric. What this is saying is that when we go from 5 to 15, we're multiplying by 3. When we go to 15 and 45, we're multiplying by 3, and so on and so forth. So we're multiplying by 3 every time to get to the next number in the sequence. Okay. Letter B, -2, 4, 10, 16. We have to do our arithmetic and geometric test. So for arithmetic, I did the second term, 4, minus the first term, which is 4 minus -2, which becomes 4 plus 2, which is 6. And then you do the third term, 10 minus the second term, which is 10 minus 4, which is also 6. So because these numbers are the same, I know that this is an arithmetic sequence. Now, you don't have to do the geometric if you know that it's arithmetic, but just for the sake of it, I wanted to show you that if I do the second term divided by the first term, I get -2, and I do the third term divided by the second term, I get a different number. So we know it's not geometric. Okay. I did my test for letter C, 1, 3, 7, and 13. I did arithmetic, and it was not arithmetic. I did geometric, and it also was not geometric, which means that it's neither. This sequence, 1, 3, 7, 13, is neither arithmetic nor geometric, based off of the test. And lastly, D, -1, 2, -4, and 8. I did my arithmetic test, which was 2 minus -1, which gave me 3. And then -4 minus 2, which gave me -2. Which means that since these numbers are not the same, it's not arithmetic. And then I did geometric, which is 2 divided by -1, which was -2. And then -4 divided by 2, which is also -2. Therefore, because these numbers are the same, then this sequence is geometric. Okay, now today The arithmetic sum formula. Remember, the sum means to add. The word sum means to add. That's very important here. Okay? It means to add. So if I ask you, okay, the sum of a specific amount of numbers. So this is basically saying this S sub n, that's how you say it, S sub n, the sum of a specific amount of numbers, sum of terms, okay, in the sequence, okay, the sum of terms in the sequence. So that's what S sub n means. So if I ever say S sub n, find S sub 10, S sub 8, I want you to find the sum of the first 10 numbers in the sequence, or the sum of the first 8 numbers in the sequence, okay? Here, n is the number of terms. Okay. A sub 1, we already know, is the first term. And A sub n is the last term. Okay? A sub n is the last term. So here, for these examples, I want you to find the 10th term. So S sub 10 means find the sum, add up the first 10 terms. Tell me, if I add up the first 10 terms in any sequence, in this sequence, what will it add up to? Okay, the sum of the first 10 terms in each sequence. Okay, again, we're just dealing with, if we know the first 10 terms, add them all up. Tell me what that answer is. That's what the question is. So let's do an example. So step 1, if I ask you to find S sub 10, or the sum of the first 10 terms, you have to first find A sub 10, or the 10th term. Okay, we already know how to find A sub 10. We did this last week. The first thing we have to do is identify your common difference and your first term. And that's pretty easy. Okay, we know how to find our common difference because we know this is an arithmetic sequence. So all we have to do is do our test. So our test says we're going to take the second term, 12, and subtract the first term, 7, which gives us 5. And then we're going to take the third term, 17, and subtract the second term, 12, which gives us 5. I'm just doing my arithmetic test. Okay? And so now, since we see that our test gave us the same answer, 5, then I know that my common difference is 5. Okay? What term are we trying to find? We're trying to find the 10th term here. That's step 1. Our A sub 1 is clearly 7. And we're looking for A sub 10. Okay? We're looking for A sub 10. So the only thing I had to do so far is to find out what my common difference is. And we know that all you need to do is do your test. Okay? So do your test. Okay. So now that we have our test, we have our common difference, and we have our first term, we're going to do exactly what we did last week, and we're going to plug in what we know. So now our arithmetic sequence explicit formula is A sub n. Okay, A sub n. Okay. And you can kind of do this all in one swoop. A sub n, which is now A sub 10, equals A sub 1, which is 7, right? Plus your common difference, so plus 5, times n, which is 10 now, minus 1. Okay, I plugged in everything I know. I'm looking for a sub 10. Because I want to find this S sub 10, the sum of the first 10 terms, I have to first find the 10th term. So I need to find the 10th term by plugging in all that I know into my explicit formula. So I have to do my test to find what my common difference is. That's what I just did. Now, once you find your common difference, you can fill in everything else. You know that you're trying to find the 10th term. You know your first term is 7, and you know you're trying to find a sub 10. So all I did was plug in everything I knew here. Now, I can distribute and simplify. So I'm going to distribute this 5 to this 10 and to this -1, which is going to give me a sub 10 equals 7 plus 5 times 10 is 50. And then 5 times -1 is 5. Okay. So I no longer need my n, guys. I don't need to put the n because I know n is 10. Before we did not know what n was. Now we know what n is. Okay. So now I'm going to simplify this. 7 plus 50 is 57. Minus 5 is 52. So a sub 10 equals 52. Again, 7 plus 5 is 7 plus 50 is 57, minus 5 is 52. So now we know that my a sub 10 is 52. Okay. So now we have to take that it's a sub 10 and plug it into our formula. Now, our formula says the sum of whatever term you're looking for equals the amount of terms divided by 2 times the first term plus the last term. Okay. So we're going to plug in everything we know. We know everything we need to know. And this is where it's really good that we know everything we need to know because all we have to do is plug it in. So now this becomes... Here goes the formula right here, S sub 10, right? We're looking for the 10th term, so it's S sub 10. No, we're not looking for the 10th term. We're looking for the sum of the first 10 terms. S sub 10 equals 10, right? Because 10 is in, right? 10 is in. 10 divided by 2 times a sub 1, which we know is 7, plus a sub 10, which we know is 52. Okay. Okay. Again, I only plugged in what I know. If I know that we're looking for the sum of the first 10, so S sub 10 equals the number of terms, which is 10 terms, times the first term, which is 7, right? Plus a sub 10, which you just found out is 52. Now we can simplify using our order of operations. So, or our PEMDAS, right? Parentheses is first. So 52 plus 57, 52 plus 7 is 59. So then I'm going to say S sub 10 equals 10 divided by 2 times 59. Now I'm going to do 10 divided by 2. So S sub 10 equals 10 divided by 2 is 5 times 59. And 5 times 59 equals 295. So my answer here is, if I add up the first 10 terms of that sequence, it's going to all add up to 295. Okay. Ignore this, you try it, that's just you'll do it on the next page. Okay. Let's do it again, but without the helping. Now we have the sequence 27, 16, and 5. First things first. So I want to find the sum of the first 10 again. Doing the same thing we did here. Just different numbers. So the first thing I have to do is my test. My arithmetic test says if it's the second term, 16, minus the first term, 27. So 16 minus 27 equals negative 11. Okay. Now I'm going to take the third term, 5, minus the second term, 16, negative 11. Okay? 5 minus 16 is negative 11. Because I got the same number, I know my common difference here is negative 11. Okay? Again, your first thing you're going to do is your test to figure out your common difference. Everything else we can fill in. We know we're trying to find the sum of the first 10 terms. We know our first term is 27. And we know we're trying to find a sub 10. So now we can plug everything we need into our explicit formula. And our explicit formula is a sub n equals a sub 1 plus the common difference times n minus 1. Now let's plug in what we know. We're trying to find the 10th term, so a sub 10 equals a sub 1, which is 27, plus, so it's going to be minus 11 because 11 is negative 11. We're subtracting 11 each time, times 10, because 10 is n, minus 1. So I plugged in the 10, the negative 11, the 27, and the a sub 10. Everything over here is what I plugged in. Now let's distribute and solve. So negative 11 times 10 and then negative 11 times negative 1. So it becomes a sub 10 equals 27. 11 times 10 is, negative 11 times 10 is negative 110. And then negative 11 times negative 1 is positive 11. Okay. All I did was distribute and then rewrote everything that I didn't use, basically. So now I can just add these up. So you can do this in your calculator. 27 minus 110 plus 11 equals negative 72. Okay. So then a sub 10 equals negative 72. So the 10th term in the sequence is negative 72. So now that I know that, I'm going to take my negative 72 and plug it in with everything else I know into my sum formula. So S sub n equals n divided by 2 times a sub 1 plus a sub n. Okay. Let's plug in what we know. We know that we're looking for S sub 10 equals n, which is 10, divided by 2, times a sub 1, which is 27, plus a sub n. Actually, it's not going to be plus a sub n because our a sub n is a sub 10, which is negative 72. So it's minus 72. All we did was plugged in what we know. We know we're looking for S sub 10, the 10th term, the sum of the first 10 terms of the sequence. We know that the term number is 10. we know that the first term is 27, and then we know that our a sub 10 is negative 72. So now we can solve it. So s sub 10 equals, let's do parentheses first, always. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Negative 72. Or 27 minus negative 72. Or plus negative 72. Equals negative 45. So this becomes 10 divided by 2 times negative 45. Okay. All right, so now s sub 10 equals 10 divided by 2 times negative 45. So it's 5 divided times negative 45, which is going to equal 5 times negative 45 is negative 225. So what this is saying is that if we add up the first 10 terms in this sequence here, we add them up, then the answer would be negative 225. All right, now I want you to try the next two on your own. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and try the next two on your own, and then we're going to go over it together. Okay, so looking at the first one, I have the sequence negative 4, 4, and 12. First things first, do your test. Do your test. So I'm going to take my second term, 4, and I'm going to subtract my first term. 4 minus negative 4 equals 8. Then I'm going to take my third term, 12, and I'm going to subtract my second term. 12 minus 4 equals 8. The numbers are the same, therefore 8 is my common difference. Eight is my common difference. Now, I'm trying to find the 10th term, the sum of the 10 terms. So my n is going to be 10 here. Whatever, your n is always just going to be whatever. If I ask you to find the sum of the first 8 terms, then n would be 8. If I ask you to find the sum of the first 20 terms, then n would be 20. Okay? My first term in this sequence is negative 4. I just see that by looking. And then I'm trying to find a sub 10. So in order to find the sum of the first 10 terms of the sequence, we have to first find the 10th term. So let's plug in what we know into our explicit formula. So it's a sub 10 here. So a sub 10 equals a sub 1, which is negative 4, plus d, which is 8, common difference, times n, which is 10, minus 1. Okay, all I did was plug in what I know. Now I'm going to distribute this 8 to this 10 and this 1. You could also just for clarification, you could always just do 10 minus 1 and get 9, right? And then multiply it times 8. But for the sake of what we did last week and just keeping up with the same pattern, let's just distribute. So a sub 10 equals negative 4 plus 8 times 10 is 80. 8 times negative 1 is negative 8. Okay. Then we do negative 4 plus 80, which is going to give us 76 minus 8, which is going to be 68. So a sub 10 equals 68. Okay. So the 10th term in this sequence is 68. Now we're going to take this 68, and along with everything else we know, we're going to plug that into our sum formula. So it becomes S sub 10. So the sum of the first 10 terms equals 10 divided by 2 times the first term, which is -4, plus the 10th term, which is 68. And that's why you have to find that 10th term so you can plug it into the formula, okay? And now once we get that, we're going to do our parentheses first. So S sub 10 equals -4 plus 68, which is going to be 10 divided by 2 times 64, because -4 plus 68 is 64. And then we have 10 divided by 2, so it becomes S sub 10 equals 5 times 64. And 5 times 64 is 320. So if I was to add up all of the first 10 of this sequence, so if I was to, this is 3 numbers here, if I was to add 7 more numbers, and add up all 10 of those numbers, the answer would be 320. Okay, last but not least, I have a sequence 13, 12, and 11. I need to find what my common difference is, so I have to do my test. Take the second number, 12 minus 13, which is the first number, it's going to give me -1. Then do 11, the third number, minus the second number, which is going to give me -1 as well. So my common difference is -1. Oops. Sorry if you guys can see that. So what I did my test. I did my second number minus my first number. So 12 minus 13 gave me -1. And then I did my third number minus my second number, which is 11 minus 12 equals -1. Okay? We're trying to find the sum of the first 10 terms. And we're also going to have to find the 10th term. So our n is 10. Our first term is 13. And then we're trying to find a sub 10 first. Okay. Now that we have all of this information, we can first find a sub 10. So a sub 10, we got a sub n equals a sub 1 plus d times n minus 1. So now we have to plug in what we're looking for. We're trying to find a sub 10 equals the first term, which is 13, plus the common difference, which is going to be -1 or -1, times n, which is 10 minus 1. Just plugged in what we know. Got that from over here. Now let's do our distribution. So a sub 10 equals 13. -1 times 10 is -10. And then -1 times -1 is +1. So I have 13 minus 10 plus 1. So that means a sub 10 is going to equal 13 minus 10 is 3 plus 1 is 4. A sub 10 is 4. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to plug in that 4 into my sum formula. So S sub n equals n divided by 2 times a sub 1, the first term, plus a sub n, which is now a sub 10, right? Okay, and that's going to give us S sub 10 equals n divided by 2, which is 10 divided by 2, times the first term, which was 13, plus the 10th term, which is 4. Okay. All right. Now we're going to do the parentheses first. 13 plus 4 is 17. S sub 10 equals 10 divided by 2 times 17. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. So it's 5 times 17. And 5 times 17 is 85. So S sub 10 here equals 85. All right. I want to make sure you remember that your first step is to always find the nth term. So whatever, if a sub n is, if I'm asking you to find the sum of the 20th terms, the 20 terms, then you want to find a sub 20 first. Okay. Let's look at your practice. So your practice is basically 3 problems doing the same thing you just did. Except for I'm asking you to find the sum of the first 8 numbers. So before we did S sub 10, now we're doing S sub 8, which means that your n is going to be 8. I want to let you know that now. Your n is going to be 8, and you're trying to find A sub 8, okay, for all of them. Okay, do your test, find your common difference, plug in what we know here, and then plug in what you know here and solve. Okay, that's your practice. Hope everyone has a lovely day. Bye.